first time you're joining us for National Girls Collaborative Project, welcome. We are so thrilled that you're here for our webinar, A Focus on Finance for Engaging Elementary Aged Girls. This webinar is being recorded and you'll have access to the recording, the slides, and all of the resources after the webinar wraps up. And we would ask for you to remain muted today, but to use the chat as much as you'd like to share comments, questions, and ideas throughout the presentation. And a little bit later on, when we have some question and answer time, you will have an opportunity if you'd like to come unmute or come on camera. But until then, just so we can avoid any audio feedback, we do ask that you remain muted. If this is your first time joining an NGCP event, we wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do before we dive into today's topic. So the vision of the National Girls Collaborative Project, or NGCP, is to support and create STEM experiences that are as diverse as the world we live in. We bring together organizations that are committed to informing and encouraging girls to consider STEM. Our goals are all focused around connection, collaboration, and creating. So we work to build and sustain a network of advocates to provide equitable and inclusive STEM opportunities. We also work to catalyze equity in STEM from research to practice by providing actionable knowledge that transforms the STEM experience. And we also work to increase our own collective impact by strengthening our organizational effectiveness. We have a few resources that might be interesting to you. You know about our national webinars. You found this one. We're so happy you're here. We offer them monthly on a variety of different topics related to STEM education, STEM equity, and more. And we have all sorts of different speakers who are educators, researchers, authors, and STEM professionals. So we hope you'll join us for some of our upcoming webinars as well. Our monthly newsletter is your best place to learn about our webinars, our events, and our other resources and research as they come out. And my colleague Candid will be putting links to all of these resources in the chat so that you can check them out. And all of our resources and lots more are available on our website, ngcproject.org. That's where you can find blog posts, statistics, research related to girls and women in STEM, and lots more. Well, I am so thrilled that you're here to talk about finance for engaging elementary aged girls. I want to check the chat really quick because we asked a question earlier. We asked if you learned about finance growing up. So I'm curious to see, and if you haven't answered that question yet, feel free to let us know in the chat. Did you learn about finance growing up? Do you teach your students or your own kids anything about financial literacy, or is this a brand new topic for you? Either way, we are thrilled that you are here to talk about this with us today. Thinking about using finance as a lens for supporting girls in math is a really exciting tool and an exciting approach to take. We know from a research perspective that girls and women and boys and men do not differ in their mathematics ability, but there are other barriers that girls and women face. So, for example, teachers and parents often underestimate girls' math abilities. Parents often talk more about spatial relations and use spatial language with boys more so than girls. And we've also seen time and time again in research that girls are hard on themselves. When it comes to math, they self-assess lower than boys with similar math achievement. And then with teachers, and we're talking about elementary, early education teachers today, these are predominantly women. They've grown up with all of these barriers themselves and many stereotypes about girls and math. And so they have their own anxiety about math that they often pass on to their students, to the girls that they serve. And if you're interested in digging in more to any of this research, learning more about any of it, we will put a link in the chat to this article on early barriers to girls and women in STEM. The good news is early exposure, like some of the resources and activities that we'll learn about today, can be so effective. Early exposure to hands-on math and to hands-on STEM in general can build girls' confidence and competence in different STEM areas, and can help counter some of the STEM stereotypes that they grow up with and are faced with in the media and in advertising and more. And specifically, using finance as a lens to explore math in the early years can help teach math concepts that are often a little bit more abstract in concrete ways that are relatable and that have a real world context that people care about. And these learning these skills and starting this financial literacy early can help girls and all youth develop the skills they need to achieve financial success later in life. And so, with all that said, I am extremely thrilled to have here with us an expert who is going to be sharing with us some great resources, some great activities we can do with our elementary aged youth. We have Jackie Morgan here today. Jackie is Outreach Senior Advisor at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, Nashville branch. And I'm going to say a few brief words about Jackie because she really has been doing some amazing work in this area, and then I will turn it over to her to take it away and get us started. Jackie is an established communicator and proven leader in economic and financial education, strategy, policy, development, and training. She's a sought after professional for her financial education expertise, and she trains educators, develops curriculum, writes articles, serves on advisory boards, and conducts outreach programs. She has served on the Tennessee Girls Collaborative Champions Board and is the past president of the Tennessee Jumpstart Coalition for Personal Financial Literacy, which was recognized by National Jumpstart as the State Coalition of the Year under her leadership. Jackie, it is such a pleasure to have you here today. I'm so thrilled to hear from you, learn about your resources and activities. So, without further ado, why don't I turn it over to you to get us started?
Great. Thanks so much for having me here, Amanda. I am delighted to be able to get to talk with you all about personal finance, one of my favorite topics, and money. And so I find it really interesting to see how everybody has had exposure to finance in their life and when it came in. So thank you for asking that introduction question. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take you through kind of a journey. And our journey is going to start with that hook with talking about money a little bit. And we'll talk about a lot of free resources that we have available, both through the Federal Reserve and some other areas that are available out there. So some good stuff to use in your programming that you're doing. So let's dive right in. And I have a first question for you to do. And this is kind of your thought question. So I want you to think about, and you can put your answer in the chat area, which is bigger? Is a penny or a dime bigger? Oops, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. There I was trying to find my chat. There's my chat. Which do you think is bigger? And you might think this is a trick question. Oh, there we go, Erin. Thank you. Yep, and Emma both got it too. So are we thinking about size or monetary value? Physical or economically? Exactly. It all depends, right? And some of that is about wording. And that's what we're trying to do here is get people to think about it, because thinking about it and getting that discovery point is important. So you're right. If we're thinking about that penny and looking at the value is going to be less than our dime. But if we're looking at the size in general, in terms of how big it is, it's also going to be larger. So, but let's look a little bit more at all of our different coins to give us some additional information. So this particular information comes from the US Mint. So to give you some background, the US Mint, located currently in Philadelphia and in Denver, there's also a location in San Francisco, but they just produce collector sets. West Point does some other things as well. But the active mint locations, Denver and Philadelphia, they produce our coins that we see out in circulation. And so these coins here, when we look at those, you can see here all the different ways that we can look to see which is bigger. So if we're looking at weight, so that second line that's over here, weight for our penny is going to be that 2.5 grams. Our dime is going to be more in that 2.28. So if we're looking at weight, the penny's bigger. If we're looking at value, the dime is bigger. If we're looking at diameter, same sort of thing, that penny wins out again. Thickness, the penny wins out. So it's all about those asking the right questions to get the right answers. So kind of when we're doing a lot of inquiry, that's what we look at. So I think it's interesting we can use this money to think about different ways that we can look at measurements. And I love thinking about, so questions like I've put down here at the bottom. So if you stacked them on top of each other, how many nickels would it take to equal the height of the Washington Monument? You might think, wow, that's a lot of nickels. And it probably is. I don't know the answer. I didn't calculate the answer, but you can find out the answer, right? And that's one of the things that students can work toward is figuring out, well, how tall is the Washington Monument, and using math to figure out and talk about that money. And then another question is, even if you're laying them side by side, how many quarters could it take to circle the globe, or even get to the moon, or whatever distance you want to include in there? But thinking about getting students to kind of spatially think about how to use this measurement to do some conversions as well. So lots of different ways that you can do that. If you have ideas about how you're using money to teach at this point, please drop those in the chat. And we want to be sure to share best practices with one another. One of the sites that I want to share with you is it's the US Mint again. So we showed their information before that was about how the production and the different sizes and the weights and everything of the coins. And this particular one is classroom resources that they have. So the Mint has a lot of great materials. They have some games, videos, showing about the life of a coin, collector's corner, and some coloring pages. So lots of different things depending upon what your interest is. Most of their materials are going to be lower grade, or elementary. They're not going to be as focused towards high school. But because we're focusing on elementary today, that's why I included them, because they have some great materials there. Another one I'll highlight is a book that we have available through the Federal Reserve. It's called My Money. And it's an educational workbook. You can order classroom sets of these. They come in groups of 30, and you can get them at no charge. So they come in both English and in Spanish. I think you can order up to 60 at one time. So they are great so that each student can have their own workbook. I love free materials, and I really love My Money. So you can, if you need the certain pages out of it right away, you can download the PDF. And I think after the webinar, Amanda will be sending out a follow-up email with all of the links to all these resources. So you don't have to worry about writing madly and getting these down. They'll send them out afterward too. And you'll have a copy of the presentation also. But in My Money, or Mi Dinero, it covers things like money, coin equivalencies, jobs, goods, services, and bartering. So a lot of things, at least in Tennessee, where I'm at, that fall within our elementary level standards. We talk a lot about jobs, goods, services, wants, needs, all of those things that we can fit in there. So I wanted to show you a couple of the pages that are out of there. So for one of the things it starts with is characteristics of money. So when we think about money, the way that we can identify something as money is, here's our characteristics. It's divisible. That means we can divide it up. So our dollar bill, we're not talking about necessarily tearing it up, but what we are talking about is it can be broken down into smaller units. You can trade your dollar for 4 quarters or whatever the case may be. It's scarce. It's limited. We don't have all that we want of money. It's durable. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. It's portable, it's easy to transport around, and it's generally accepted. If you go in someplace, they're probably going to take your dollar bills for the most part. Some places are only accepting plastic these days, but that's a whole nother discussion. We'll start with this. In the workbook then, the next page has an example of the crayon or the marker and goes through all those 5 things. I want us to talk through chocolate. And let's talk about, is chocolate money? Do we think it's portable? Sure, I could carry my chocolate bar around. Is it divisible? Yeah, if I've got one of those chocolate bars, I could break it up, right? Is it durable? What do y'all think? Probably not necessarily on a hot day, right? On a hot day, it might be melty. If I leave it in my car, I come back and my money has just melted away. Is it scarce? Potentially, yes. And then is it generally accepted? Probably not, right? If I go in, it depends on where you're taking it to. You're right, Emma, it's too tempting. I'm going to eat it too. If it's here, especially dark chocolate, it is gone. And so there we go. So generally accepted, probably not. My husband doesn't like dark chocolate, so he wouldn't accept it if I was trying to do a trade with him anyway. So there we go. And then it goes through all these different things here. So salt and beads actually were types of currency at one point in history. So it's a nice tie-in as well to some of our history. There's some blanks that are down at the bottom there so that students can come up and say, oh, let's see if this item, another item, or as a class, you can go through and look at our other items. Would they meet those characteristics? So I love the tie-in for history. Lots of different ways that you can do it. And so it's really a great opportunity to be cross-curricular when you're talking about money. The other part that they have in here is one of my favorite things. I love Venn diagrams. So I think my life thinks in Venn diagrams about like what's so when we're using a Venn diagram, we have a circle on the left and a circle on the right, and they come together and they overlap. And so, for example, here we're looking at a nickel and a penny. So on the left side, it would say, okay, what is unique about the nickel? And on the right side, it would say, what's unique about the penny? And in the center, it tells us what is similar about both of those. And so then you go through each of the other coins and try to identify the coin combinations there to try to identify similarities and differences. Don't worry, there's a teacher answer key that comes along with this, so you don't have to figure out what are the similarities and differences. The other part that's in here is some coin equivalencies. So figuring out what really great for working on fractions if you're doing that. So another good math tie-in. So you can look here, looking at the pennies. So 5/5 pennies equals, the nickel. So you can think about all of those kind of things about how that works. And so lots of other good math you can work through here as well. And these are just a few of the sample pages from My Money that I wanted to highlight today. There's some other really good pages in there as well. Okay. If you have any questions related to the resources or other ideas, please pop them in the chat and we can answer those as we go. But for now, I want to go on to another discussion question. Our discussion question is the $1 bill more like an oak tree or a cotton plant? What do you think? Stick it in the chat here. Do you think a dollar bill is more like an oak tree or a cotton plant? So here we also will have this good tie-in related to science as well, right? Because we're thinking about science and agriculture, that great. Oh, some of you must be smarties out there. And Erin just says clueless, no clue, right? So here is our answer and why. Our answer is it's actually more similar to the cotton plant because currency, when we think of our $1 bills, they are made of 75% cotton and 25% linen. So if any of you have ever washed a $1 bill, you've left it in your pocket and it's gone through the wash, that's why it doesn't dissolve. It's not like regular paper and pulp paper. So this makes a really good demo too. You can make it wet and it'll wring out and you'll still have your dollar bill. And it still will be in good condition to be able to use it again. When it gets back to us at the Federal Reserve, when it's worn, torn, dirty, no longer good to be in circulation, we will send it through our high-speed machines and the machines make the determination. So it's a good technology piece. It'll go through the machine and it says, oh, no, this is no good. And it will shred it at that point. So that's what happens to your currency is it gets shredded when it's no longer good after it sends it back to us. So that's why it can survive, Amanda. Yep, absolutely. It goes right through that washing machine and there we go. The $1 bill also has, I'll go on to our next slide, but the $1 bill has some great history features on it too. So for example, George Washington is featured on there, first president. The Great Seal of the United States is on the backside. Some good history information with that goes along with the 13 colonies. So there's some great fun facts about money. I would say look out for some of the conspiracy stuff online if you're looking for $1 bills, and either go to our site here, this uscurrency.gov for currency. And when we're talking about currency, that's our printed money. So $1 through $100 bills is what's currently printed, and that's printed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. So the Treasury Department over here, and underneath it is the Mint, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, IRS, some other things, okay? And then over here is the Federal Reserve, and that's who I work for. So the Federal Reserve doesn't print the currency. We put on our order with the Mint or with the Bureau of Engraving and Printing to get however much we need based upon the demand of all of you, the consumers and the banks. They tell us how much they need to be out there in circulation. So there's 7 bills that are currently printed. Yes, the $2 bill is still out there, believe it or not, right? A lot of times we only see it around birthdays, holidays, or when the tooth fairy shows up, right? So the $2 bill. The other thing about our currency, it is a standard size. And so the size there is 6.14 inches by 2.61 inches. So there's some cool things you can do with that if you want to get your measuring tapes or your rulers and kind of measure and see, well, how long is it here? What are our dimensions? If we make it into a triangle, what is the size of our triangle that we have here? And so then I put on here for you, so you have it, the perimeter and the area of our dollar bills. And all of our bills here in the United States are a standard size. Okay. The lifespan of the bills, a $1 bill lasts about 5.8 years in circulation, and a $100 bill lasts about 15 years. If you want more information about each of those individual bills, the uscurrency.gov has great details on it. We've also listed on the right-hand side for you who's on those bills. Something you might not know about money, the great tie-in. If you look at that list, who do you think can be on currency just by looking at that list? What kind of names do you see on there? I'll give you a hint. So some founding fathers, okay? Presidents, okay? So there's a way that you have to be men. Yeah, that's another indicator, at least for now, right? At least for now. We could see some changes in the future. We'll have to wait and see on that. So I'll tell you, to be on the currency, you have to be dead, number one, and then easily recognizable. So people like Alexander Hamilton and Ben Franklin were never presidents, but they are easily recognizable parts of our history, and that's why they appear on the currency. Okay? So some really fascinating things about currency that are great tie-ins and facts, and other good inquiry points as well. So we've talked about coins, we've talked about currency. We're going to dive a little bit more into our money, and this is another science tie-in about how is our money like animals in nature? How is our money like animals in nature? Any ideas? And this, I will bet you that this is something you've never thought about before, right? Is about how is my money like an animal? Which animal is it like? Well, guess what? I've got some answers for you, and we have a great resource available through the Fed and uscurrency.gov. There's an online tool, and then there's a video that will help with all of this. Okay, so the first animal we're going to look at is an armadillo. So if any of you have armadillos in your area, they are, depending upon where you live. I know some of you are from Texas. Guess what, Texas folks? Your armadillos have migrated up to us in Tennessee, and they brought those fire ants along with them. So we see lots of armadillos, but they have this unique texture on them, and they feel rough and bumpy. And so that's how our currency is. If you actually get out your bill, so I know some of you right now are probably trying to reach for your purse or your wallet, aren't you? So you can grab out a dollar bill, and that's great. And you can feel it. And that's what we want, is like kids really get interested in money. So whether you have them have actual money, or sometimes we have enlargements that you can use. There's also some play money on here. I will tell you, if you're reproducing currency, though, don't go to your copy machine. Don't go to your scanner. We don't want the Secret Service coming and seeing you, right? Because you've made copies. There's specific guidelines on how big or how small you have to make it on there as well. And a lot of copy machines and printers won't even let you make copies these days because of the security features in there, okay? So, but a lot of our currency does have this raised texture on there, so you can feel it as well. All right, then, so we've got armadillo, number one. Number two, the jewel bug. So apparently, and I didn't really know about the jewel bug, but apparently the jewel bug, it can look green or it can look copper colored, depending on which way you're looking at it. And that's how our currency is on bills worth $10 or more. When you shift that currency, some of the, either the money on there or the inkwell will change different colors. It'll either look green or it'll look copper. So we've seen the thing also about, I think it was the dress, right? Is the dress blue and white, or is it yellow and some other color, right? So depending upon how you view it can be different too. So lots of different color discussions that we can have here. So we've seen armadillo and jewel bug and the cuttlefish. So we're going to go underwater for this one. So for this particular one, this is about patterns. So some animals have patterns on their skin or on their fur. And so it can really, that's what we're looking at here. And so on here, our currency has got patterns as well. And one of those things is this 3D ribbon that runs through it. And so again, as you're tilting it, If you tilt it on these bigger currencies, you'll be able to see the strip that runs through it. We'll say 100 or 50. So you'll be able to see those things in there. Next is the jellyfish. So those jellyfish sometimes are hiding a secret. And so if you look at it against the light, you can kind of best see it. And that's what we're saying here is when you hold your currency up to the light and look through it, it'll have that watermark that's in it. So you'll often see, as you can see here, the president's face or the number of the dollar of the currency or the strip that runs along there as well. So lots of different ways that watermarks can appear in there. And that's done through the printing process. So when the currency is made, it's actually made by one company in the United States, the Crane Company, who not only makes it the cotton linen, but they have some blue and red flecks and they embed in there as well. So it's a very specialized process. And then we have our millipede. And another thing with our millipede, so apparently they also can be ultraviolet. I didn't know this either. And they can glow brilliantly, at least certain species apparently of the millipede. And so we have some threads as well that are in the currency that will glow a certain color. And so very specialized and really neat things. So how our money is actually a lot like our animals. So as I mentioned, the information I just went through with you is something from a place called You'd Be Surprised Special Features. There's a video, and there's also, as part of the Currency Academy, you go online to the Currency Academy. It's all a virtual thing. And you can click on there, and there's a science lab. And within the science lab is all the information about all of the animals. So I think it's a great tie-in. So if you happen to be at a center where you have animals, what a fun tie-in, right? We can talk about animals and you can discuss, well, how is our animal like or not like currency or something else, right? There's lots of ways you can tie that in. I know we like sometimes when kids arrive, we like to have lots of things for them to do. So kind of that bell ringer sort of thing if we're thinking about the classroom. So one of the things that we have both here and that was on the US Mint side are some coloring pages. So I took a page from down on the bottom left here is a coloring page that we have of currency. So on that page, when you print it off, it'll have the dollar there, but then they can always create their own currency. Who would they put on it? What would they put on it? Why would they put it on it? What colors would they make it? So there's lots of great ways that you can tie all of that together and having think about creativeness, pulling in that art piece as well that connects with so many of our young people as well, and then talking about the STEM parts also. The other things that we have a number of great lesson plans on this particular website. There's a mobile app about money adventure, and then a book that you can order called Carnival Thrills and Dollar Bills. It's elementary focus and talks about US currency. So it's another good supplement to everything we've just talked about here. The other things that are available on some of the other websites as well are things about careers. And so it's everything from being a designer to working and all the pieces that go into making money. So we need people who are both creative and have the technology skills and all the people that are creating all of that fun stuff that we saw to keep our currency safe. So lots of different jobs that are STEM related for money. So as we think about money and personal finance and all the connections there, one of the things that we like to think about is how children's literature can tie into all of this. And there's so many good pieces of children's literature that are probably either in your local libraries, maybe you all have them at the places that you're working now, or in schools. And so we've picked out some popular children's literature, and we've designed lesson plans to go along with all of those. So we can't provide you the books, but we can provide you the great lessons. The lessons have got lessons, activities, some Q&A things, so that if you've read the book, you have the good Q&A document to walk through the students and talk with them. So I love Alexander Who Used to Be Rich Last Sunday. If any of you know it, so Alexander got his allowance and then he's kind of squandered it away. He's been a few cents here and a few cents here. And so the lesson that goes along with that kind of talks through that and the opportunities of saving versus spending. And you can look at lots of things to go along with that. If you're into teaching about number lines, Less Than Zero works on counting and saving and number lines. Curious George Saving His Penny, lots of kids like Curious George, another animal tie in there. So that's great. And so those are just a few examples that we actually have that are available. So those and many, many more. We also have some ebooks available that are online. And our ebook series is called Financial Fables, and it features birds. So, four different birds currently. And with each one of those, so the one I have showing here, Olivia Owl, is Shopping Wisely with Olivia Owl. So it's about decision making and comparison shopping. And so all of the resources that are there, there's some teacher resources, there's some alliteration pieces. There's also family extension pieces, which I really like because it takes the discussion all the way home. So what you're learning and as you're doing the classroom activities can be taken home to the families as well. One of my favorite ones for a little bit older group for upper elementary is called Great Minds Think, A New Guide to Money. And so this is a downloadable PDF, and there's also an accompanying digital game. And so it has students think about, how can I earn money? What things am I good at? What skills do I have now? And you can extend that to, what skills do I want to have in the future? What jobs do I want to think about having in the future? And so there's a nice tie-in that you can make there to, if you want to think about jobs in STEM, here's your skills you have now, and here's where we can go. But it also has some budgeting pieces in there, thinking about how to budget and if I were to save this, what happens then? And then just all about earning money, wants and needs. And this is the conversation I have with my child all the time. My poor kid, right? He has had the conversation of, is it a want or is it a need? Because he says, Mom, I need those Pokemon cards. No, I think do you need those or do you want those? And so everything that we do is that conversation about wants and needs and what that is. So it's a great tool. So it's downloadable. And then there's the digital game, and there's lots of other digital games on this particular site as well. We have some great flashcards and other related materials that go along with that. So the flashcards, you can order sets of those at no charge, these 50 nifty econ cards. So for example, the one I'm showing on here is called Earn. So on that card, on the front, it'll say Earn, and on the back side, or on the separate card, I'm sorry, it'll say the definition. So that way you can use them for matching, you can use it for review, you can use it for lots of different ways that you can use it. There's actually an activity book that comes along with this to give you ideas about how to use that. So popcorn economics is one way, bingo is another. And then we have 3 online tools to go along with 50 nifty econ cards. So the word search, a memory game, and then a crossword puzzle to really reinforce those concepts. It also has a guide on there because you might think, oh gosh, I really don't know which words are appropriate for kindergarten versus 5th grade for personal finance. There's a guide on there that helps you with that so that you can say, oh, these words are better for my 1st and 2nd graders, and this is more appropriate for my 5th graders. So you can order those online flashcard sets at no charge. So be sure to go online and check those out. And we have tons of other materials available. This is just a little tip of the iceberg, so to say. And we have lots of other materials that are available at federalreserveeducation.org. You can search by subject matter. So we have things for economics, personal finance, history, lots of social studies things that tie in here as well. So you can think about, oh gosh, I didn't see this, I'd like to see more. Go online and see. Lots of lesson plans, lots of online interactives and other things for all grades, for kindergarten through college. So with that, I'll go here and we can pause and see if we have any questions, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Myself and lots of others in the chat were just talking about how they were learning so many new facts as you were speaking. I know that a lot of this is designed for engaging kids, but it was very engaging for us as adults and a lot of great fun facts that you shared. So if anyone has questions for Jackie, or if you want to share some of your ideas, things that you're doing around money, around finance, or math at this level, please feel free to let us know by raising your hand, and I could call on you and let you unmute, or you can feel free to just put your questions in the chat and I will ask them to Jackie for you. So yes, Brenda and Emma are saying this was all really new. You've got a lot of great ideas and resources. As you were sharing, was thinking that a lot of this would be great for summer programs,
Yeah.
and parents and caregivers to do at home over the summer, really hands-on stuff to do with money. Is there, one thing you think we should all be starting to teach our kids about money starting at kindergarten? I know you said you had resources from kindergarten to
Yeah.
college. What do you think is the most important thing we should be exploring with them?
Yeah, I think so. I always say personal finance is personal, right? And so thinking about it though, in terms of what we value. And so if you, and helping your kids understand that truly money doesn't grow on trees, right? That if they get that allowance, how do they need to spend it? Do they want to spend, save, share, give? And so thinking about those ways, how they can be giving of their money. And so, and what they can do with it. And so just helping them to understand what happens with that if you have your own individual student. I think that that's a good place to start. And just understanding that they can, I think part of it is when it's their money and they can use it to buy something too, it's a different perspective as opposed to mom or dad or somebody else buying it for them. So just starting with those basic concepts. And I think just integrating the if doing it in easy ways, like the books, the children's literature. It's non-threatening, it's fun, but it's ways to be able to talk about it and work on those reading skills at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm definitely going to be checking out all of those books with my own kids who are at that early elementary level. We've got some other questions coming
Hmm.
in the chat. Do you know of any credit debit card types of activities, anything that you've prepared yet, or maybe dealing with math and technology? Any thoughts on that, Jackie?
Yeah, so there's some things that are available. We have a lot of things about credit and debit and things that are available on our website at federalreserveeducation.org. So lots of resources, so lesson plans, videos, podcasts, tons of stuff on that. There's one that is available for technology that is more middle school focused, but it could be used for elementary too. It's on the site that was the uscurrency.gov site that had the other resources like the animals and that sort of thing, but it's called Cash Code Breakers. So it's kind of thinking about how, looking at counterfeiting and some other things, but it's a good technology piece because really cyber right now is one of those biggest growing career areas to think about. And so the Federal Reserve, banks, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, and the Mint, we're all interested in that. So the whole cyber area, anything we can get for those students thinking about tech skills, and that math ties right into that too. So.
Great question, Emma. We have another question. Aaron, it looks like your hand is raised. Would you like to unmute and ask Jackie your question on camera?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Jackie and Amanda. I have just a little share. So I work for Inspire Girls, and we primarily work with middle school and high schoolers, and we do offer a finance seminar to high schoolers. And it comes up. So I was really, so this is like outside of our scope, but I was really just excited to see what you're doing with elementary students. And I just really thought it was powerful just from the very beginning, reminding of like the things that we do learn about money and counting and all that kind of stuff. Because sometimes we say things like, we're not learning this in high school or in school at all, but there is a burgeoning thought. My question to you is, do you know any, or so sometimes we get like, how can we start younger, or do we need to?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I would say you're an advocate for starting younger. Do you know any groups, organizations that are doing it? And is there any sort of metrics or impact about, these resources that you're sharing? I'm familiar with a little bit of like what the Girl Scouts did on some of their baseline surveys, but just looking for kind of like from a nonprofit perspective about maybe like how we can help push the needle forward with not in our group, but with other groups.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what you see out there, what's being measured, how can we help process this a little bit more?
Yeah, there's starting to be more research on that. I can't cite anything specific right now, right? But Erin, we can certainly pull some of that and get that to you. But I think one of the things that we're finding is finding natural ways to put it into the elementary curriculum, because I know that right now elementary classrooms are so crowded, right? If we're looking at our regular, day-to-day schooling. And so asking the teachers to do one more thing on top of what they're already trying to teach can be really challenging. And so we try to find ways like English literate language, things that we can put in there, math, easy ways, social studies that they can integrate these concepts in, or materials that they can use, like once testing is done, that they can have all of these great tools that they're able to use. So that's why we kind of think about it from that way. So for after school programs, junior achievement is doing some good work at the elementary level. So they have some good stuff. Girl Scouts, you're right, some good things. 4-H does some good stuff as well with students. So there's lots of organizations that are out there doing good work at the grassroots level. And so it's great to be able to connect with them. And so, Erin, I'm so excited that you're thinking, oh, I'm working here, but I want to help connect down. So I think that's great.
Thanks for that question, Erin. And I'm sure there's others that work with high school youth. So if you want to share any links or resources in the chat about your seminars or anything else that you think would be helpful, please do put that in there. We're saving the chat, so everyone will get all these links and resources after the fact. We have another question for you, Jackie. Are there any tablet or computer games that you recommend to supplement the resources you've shared already?
Oh, sure. So there's some games. So it depends on the grade level, right? It's all about hard finding those things and finding good quality stuff. Um, the one thing I always want to say is caveat emptor, let the buyer beware, right? So if you're teaching financial literacy to high schoolers and middle schoolers, we'll talk about that first. Um, please don't be using some of the apps that are available out there that we as adults use because it asks for much too personal information and kids are too willing to share anyway. Oh, and you know what? I didn't do my disclaimer at the beginning that the views I expressed are mine and not necessarily those of the Atlanta Fed or the Federal Reserve System. This is probably a good time to do that. So with that, so because they just ask for too much information. So there's some good educational apps out there. So just being cautious of those. We have some materials available through the our Fed that so our Cleveland Fed, which has the Great Minds Think curriculum, has some online game type things. Our Kansas City Fed that has the games that go along with the flashcards are good. And then the Mint also has some things. And then the uscurrency.gov does as well. There's some other organizations that have lots of things out there. I just say vet things before you use them to kind of understand what's involved, what the cost is, and the kind of content that they're discussing.
Thanks for that answer, Jackie, and thanks for that question. Speaking of asking about digital games, tablets, computers, do you find that as we're going more and more and more cashless, it's harder for parents and educators to teach about
Yeah.
cash in a meaningful way? Because I found that, with my own kids, they rarely see me pay with cash. And it's really only when they started with their piggy bank that they're, learning about currency and coins and these things, but they don't really see anyone that they know of their grown-ups paying with cash. They see them tap a phone, they see them with a credit card, but even the credit cards are less and less now. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that, or why it's still so important to start with learning about paper and coin money.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. It's so complex, isn't it? I mean, we as adults find it complex, but think about the coins. When we had the quarters, we had the presidential series for the dollars, and then the national park things for the coin, and the state coins, the quarters. And so saying, oh, a certain president or a certain thing is on there. Well, maybe not, right? Depending upon the coin, it can be very, very difficult. And so, but we still think that understanding what our baseline coins and money looks like, because that's one of our ways that we transact here in the United States, right? We still write checks, we still have cash and coins. And so we're just continuing to add more layers. But I think the cash is coins and cash money are an easy place to start because you're right. Kids like getting the money and putting it in their piggy bank if they're handling it that way. But it does become much more complex as we're looking at debit, credit, digital payments, and as the other kinds of things, cryptocurrency and everything else that's growing out there. So all I can say is it's not going to get any easier. We just have to be thoughtful in the methods that we use to try to teach students about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And you were talking about young children today, and we do know that young children learn any new concept best in a hands-on
Yeah.
way. And that's the part that you get with the coins and the paper, or I should say cotton currency. Now that I learned that from you, from your fact that our money is more like cotton. But yeah, that hands-on element helps them really understand the quantities and the math concepts that you shared with us earlier today. And it's not going to get easier, and it does seem to get more and more abstract as things become more digital. But we are really thankful to have all of the great resources, curriculum, and materials that you shared with us. Does anyone have a last question or comment for Jackie? We have a couple more minutes if anyone wanted to ask or share anything else. where I'm really just excited to look through all of the books, all of the links that you shared, and explore, learn for myself, get some more fun facts. Do you have any more last bits of trivia or fun facts you could send us on our way with, Jackie?
Oh, sure. Okay, so what is some of my favorites? So on our currency, oh, this is great. Okay, so if you're looking at your $1 bill, on the back side of the $1 bill is the is a great seal. And it has the obverse, which is the front, and the reverse, which is the back. So we're working on vocabulary there. The obverse, the front, is the side that we see like the presidential seal, so the eagle. But when you look at that eagle, there's an olive branch and there it's holding arrows. So it's looking, the eagle's looking towards the olive branch, but it has the arrows. So it says, we're ready for peace, you know, but we're ready for war, but we're striving for peace. When you look at that, 13 leaves, 13 arrows, 13 tail feathers, 13 stripes on the shield. So 13 original colonies that are part of that. And then when you look at the pyramid, 13 steps on that too. There is a shaded side that represents the unexplored West. So we could do a whole webinar just on the $1 bill and exploring it and all the fun stuff. I will say we do tons of other workshops and things through the Federal Reserve. I put a link in here to some upcoming things that we have. A lot of the things that we do are middle school and high school focused, but can easily be adapted. We certainly welcome you to any of those. We have an in-person personal finance conference that I'm coordinating is coming up in June. If anybody's interested, you can reach out to me directly. I'd love to be connected with y'all on that too.
Wow, thank you so much, Jackie. And I see a lot of people thanking you in the chat, just how much you've inspired them. Yes, me too, Emma. I'm going to break out the magnifying glass with my kids. And, you know, this is just really exciting. I mean, of course, we know there's a lot of history involved with money,
Yeah.
but when you get into the nuance and all the little details that you can observe and be a scientist to pick out all this
Yeah.
history and all these interdisciplinary connections. It really is exciting. So thank you so much,
Thank
Jackie,
you.
for all of your time. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you to all of you for being so much fun in the chat, sharing your guesses to Jackie's questions, giving us your ideas, bringing some great discussion today. This has been a lot of fun. We hope that you will join us for our next webinar and that you will fill out that post-webinar survey link that we put in the chat. Let us know what other types of webinars you'd like to see. This actually, getting a math and finance related webinar was something that you all, our audience, mentioned more than once in our post-webinar surveys. So we're really reading them and we're really bringing them to you. But thank you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your days and take care. Bye.